Hey, everybody, welcome to this special Thursday edition of Weekend Waypoints, production of SEC Extra and D1Baseball.com. Coming to you on Thursday because we start SEC play today. Four series going Thursday to Saturday, three others going Friday to Sunday. Ostensibly due to the Easter weekend, although it is also kind of nice, honestly, selfishly, to have these series a little more spread out. You can focus on some specific stuff on the Thursday, and then obviously you'll have three series that are wrapping up on Sunday, so you can kind of pay more attention to those as the weekend goes along. So it's kind of a nice change of pace to have them go a little bit differently this weekend than versus every game happening at roughly the same time, all three days of the weekend, which is the case most weekends. Also playing around, you might notice we're going a little bit later. Weekend Waypoints typically a morning endeavor, and it will be on Saturdays and Sundays. But on first days of the weekend, whether that's Thursday like today or the Thursday before Hoover, all the series are scooted up a day. Those days will go on Thursday, but Thursdays and Fridays, we're going to experiment a little bit with whether we go in the mornings or go in the afternoon. So you're welcome to provide any feedback on that, but we're really just going to look at the viewership numbers. How many people are able to join us live, because we do want to emphasize the live aspect of this. You can watch the recording anytime. We design it that way so that people don't have to work schedules around it, but we do want to maximize the number of people that are able to join it as it's being recorded, just so we can have that interactive aspect and what have you. So not every week will I be able to do that. Some weeks I'll be driving to a game and can't do it in the afternoon, so it'll be in the morning. So I can't promise you it'll always be in the afternoon, but we are going to at least play around with it for Thursdays and Fridays. So that's the deal. The reason why we're going here in the afternoon at about 3:30 Central, 4:30 Eastern. I am in Central Time because I'm in Northwest Arkansas as we speak for this weekend's big series between LSU and Arkansas. Okay, let's get to some of the stuff this week. Got a big news roundup from the week that was. So if you'll bear with me, it's kind of scattered. I've got my notebook full of stuff here, so bear with me. This stuff is in no particular order. It's just kind of as I learned it this week. I just added it to the document. I've not done a great job of organizing it. I'll warn you now, but we'll get to everything. A lot of rotation stuff this week because of the Thursday of it all. Teams deal with that differently. Some just move their guy up. That's what Arkansas is doing with Hagen Smith. Some pitch off on Thursday and do TBA. There's just all kinds of, which is what LSU is doing. So there are different ways to approach it. Although I guess Arkansas is in the enviable position, I guess, in this case of having had a Thursday series last week. So you're kind of prepped for it. This is not the first time you've done that. But regardless, it does lead to some kind of wonky rotation stuff this week. So Vanderbilt, for example, pitching off, they're going with Grayson Carter in Thursday's game, Bryce Cunningham on Friday, and then Carter Holton on Saturday. A couple things there. It gives, first of all, no Devin Futrell after his weekend start last weekend against South Carolina went so poorly. They're skipping him for now. I imagine he'll be back, but you get Grayson Carter in there to pitch on the Thursday, the earliest game in the series. You also give Carter Holton a little bit of an extra day. They're trying to be extra careful with Carter Holton this season. He is not injured. So if you're a Vanderbilt fan listening, that's not me doing coded language to try to hint that he's injured. He is not. But the injury last year was such that they are trying to be a little bit extra cautious with him this season. So giving him that extra day is hopefully helpful in that regard. Other Vanderbilt news, unfortunately, injury news. We were already concerned about the Vanderbilt bullpen. I think we saw some of that last weekend. We talked about it with Aria Gerson 2 weeks ago on the show, but Andrew Dukanich, gone. Tommy John surgery. Continues to be a tough go of it for him. He was a highly regarded guy coming out of high school, had draft interest, but wanted to go to Vanderbilt. He goes, and obviously this is one of the things that can happen. He's talented enough. He's still got a pro career ahead of him, but obviously he's not going to have as many opportunities to prove himself ahead of when he'll be eligible to be drafted. Sawyer Hawks currently, quote, not available. According to Tim Corbin, that's passed along by Aria Gerson, of course. So big transfer portal acquisition, thought he'd be ready to be the stopper for Vanderbilt. He has not been that so far, and now not available, apparently due to some injury. J.D. Thompson, who's been great as their midweek guy, did not pitch last Tuesday, just some general arm soreness, but hopeful that he returns this weekend. Other injury news. First off, Joshua Davis on YouTube. Joe, welcome to Bomb. Hope you have a great experience. Thank you, Josh. Really looking forward to it. It's my only SEC venue I've not been to. That, of course, will change tonight. Definitely looking forward to it. Atmosphere is going to be electric. Really, really excited. Continuing on, unfortunately, with some injury news for Ole Miss. JT Quinn, this is passed along by David Eckert of the Clarion Ledger. Mike Bianco said, quote, "It's going to be a while on JT Quinn." Much like Sawyer Hawks, he hadn't pitched well when he'd been, quote, healthy, ostensibly healthy. So maybe it was an injury thing all along. I'd heard his velo was down, but he was not pitching well regardless of the reason. But now it looks like he's going to be out a while. I think we kind of maybe had started to get that hint a little bit that he'd been skipped a few weeks, but that's what's going on there. For Florida, first of all, FSU over Florida again in the midweek. The midweek problems continue for the Gators, and that's going to get the sense that's going to come back to bite them. Even if they're good in SEC play, and they have been. I mean, they're winning record in SEC play so far through 2 weekends, but the midweeks are just making it to where their record is 14-10. That's a lot of losses already. Some of them are against teams where the RPI is probably not going to love it come May and June. So it's a little bit worrisome if you're Florida. The quote after the game from Kevin O'Sullivan passed along. I saw this quoted by Jacob Rudner, who's been on this show, writes for 247 Sports. Quote, "I've seen about enough of this," from Kevin O'Sullivan. I can't blame him. But they have made some changes to their rotation. Florida, now they don't have a Thursday-Saturday series, so they didn't have to make any sort of changes. But on Friday, they're going to go to Brandon Neely. So Cade Fisher out, Brandon Neely in to the rotation. They are keeping Peterson and Caglione in the rotation, but Brandon Neely starting off the weekend there. Some Tennessee notes. A.J. Russell had returned in a relief role a couple of times in recent weeks. He is back down again. We'll have to see on that. It sounds like a bit of a wait-and-see deal. And that's interesting because he came back and he pitched pretty well. So you kind of thought, okay, he's on his way back. We're building him up. But no, it looks like actually it's going the other way now. So he's down. But Marcus Phillips returned in the midweek game, hard-throwing bullpen guy. He's back, so that's good news there. A small detail here to wrap it up on Arkansas. They're just doing something a little different with their rotation. Same 3 guys, but they're going Hagen Smith Thursday, Mason Molina Friday, Brady Tigert Saturday. So Molina up a day in terms of the order of the pitchers, and then Tigert getting that extra day there. So just a minor change, but the same guys in the rotation there for Arkansas. Moonshine checking in on YouTube. And I knew when I wore this shirt, Moonshine, that you were going to comment on it. He calls it my ugly shirt, which, first of all, how dare you? I think this is a lovely shirt, but I get it. I don't know what you have against cacti, but here we are. So thank you for noticing, my friend. I knew I could count on you to call out my shirt again. Okay, so let's get to the weekend stuff. Let's start with the series of the weekend. How could it be anything but LSU Arkansas? One is just like it's the atmosphere, right? I mean, LSU fans are gonna travel. I've seen some, even here at my hotel, I've seen some LSU stickers on cars and whatnot in the parking lot. So there are some LSU fans here. They will add to the atmosphere. Obviously, even without them, it's going to be an electric atmosphere. But then there's an air of like desperation is too strong a word for LSU, but they're clearly trying to figure some things out. Talked to Koki Riley on the Highway to Hoover podcast earlier this week, and he said that Jay Johnson is really kind of spinning. Talked about how Saturday after they lost that game against Florida last weekend that he was up until 4 a.m. just kind of like his mind just racing. So LSU's clearly in a place where they realize, hey, we have to figure some things out if we're going to be as good as we think we can be here. And the early season schedule is tough for the Tigers, so they need to just keep their heads above water at this point. But if you're going to be hosting a national seed type of team, you do also have to win some of these series against the good teams in the league. So they need to get things turned around post haste, making some changes in their rotation. Also, they're doing a TBA today, Thursday, and then Holman and Jump Friday, Saturday. One explanation, of course, is that, well, we just want to keep Holman and Jump on a regular schedule. Okay, I think that makes sense. That's not nothing. But I think there's also the strategy of, okay, you're playing off of the Thursday game. You know that no matter who you throw, as good as Luke Holman is, Hagen Smith has just been better. And so you're at a disadvantage regardless of who you throw against Hagen Smith. So hey, go with the TBA, go with the staff day, whatever it takes. If you steal Thursday, great. Now we can have a different discussion. But as it is, I think there's an understanding on LSU's part. This is nothing that Jay Johnson or anyone else has said. This is just me kind of reading what's going on here and what I think. It's an opportunity to say, hey, we need to focus on the other two games in the series once we get past Hagen Smith. And if we're fortunate enough that Hagen Smith has an off day or we hit out of our minds or whatever, great. But we'll deal with that when we get there. So a little bit different there. But the big question is going to be, can LSU hit enough? They just haven't hit enough. And I would urge you, and if you're an LSU fan, you probably already heard it, but go back into the podcast feed for Highway to Hoover. I talked to LSU with Koki Riley for about a half hour. It's a pretty long conversation about everything that's gone right and wrong with LSU so far. And the lineup has been part of that. Tommy White is coming on, although he's not been as consistent as maybe you like. He's not, hitting up near 400 or anything. And Hayden Travinsky's having a nice year, but outside of some of those guys, they're waiting. There's some guys that they're waiting on to get hot. There are other guys that, maybe this just is who they are. Like Michael Braswell is having a nice year, but I don't think there's any more ceiling necessarily to who he is as an offensive player. He's a nice piece, but waiting on him to be somebody different, I think is a little bit foolhardy. So it's a combination of things there in the lineup, but they're going to have to hit. And it's one thing against Hagen Smith, but even against Mason Molina, Brady Tiger, and then Will McIntyre's having a great year out of the bullpen. They've really used him effectively, has the Razorbacks. So LSU's going to have to get something done. And of course, you could levy the same thing against Arkansas. These two offenses have the exact same batting average in SEC play. I think it's 236, if I remember correctly. It's in my weekend preview for the website. But so it's not like Arkansas is lighting it on fire, but the difference is Arkansas has a bankable starting rotation. LSU has been pretty doggone good too, but the third spot is a question. And then Holman and Jump haven't been as consistent as Arkansas's guys, especially Tiger and obviously Hagen Smith. So both offenses, we're looking for something. We're looking for a spark from both offenses, but the pitching staffs are going to make it tough. Jeremy Scott on Facebook, Roll Tide, of course. Jeremy's always in here with the Roll Tide, and then said, should be a great weekend for baseball, and there's March Madness. Yep, second weekend in a row. I'll have one eye on some of the basketball as well. So it should be it's a really chalky NCAA men's tournament. So you've got only one double-digit seed left. So while we might be missing some of the Cinderella stuff, it is kind of nice that, hey, we've got blue bloods on blue bloods at this end of the NCAA men's basketball tournament. So definitely we'll be looking forward to that. Moonshine asks, ugly hat next time. Perhaps. I don't know if I have any super ugly hats. I've got a DeMarini hat that I got from Omaha last year. I've got a Cape Cod Baseball League hat that I wear a decent bit. We'll see. We'll see if I can come up with an ugly hat. It's not really my thing typically, but you know what? It's I should have a learning mindset, a growth mindset. Maybe an ugly hat is my next frontier. Top pitching matchup today. I just find this one interesting. Quickly, I'm sorry. Leroy Dumas on Facebook says Tiger hopefully can throw strikes this weekend. Yeah, with as much as LSU has not been impactful offensively, with offenses like that, the one thing you can't afford to do is give them free bases because it makes them confident. It means they don't have to get as many big hits to score runs because you're giving them base runners. So yeah, I agree. That's totally a key for that pitching staff. I find this pitching matchup interesting this weekend. Tonight, South Carolina Eli Jones, who I wrote about last weekend. I think he's a legit Friday guy. He really knows how to use his stuff. It's not electric. It's not exciting, frankly, but he gets the job done. He's facing off against Bama's Zane Adams, who's a freshman. And Bama's kind of in a tough spot here. They already lost Riley Quick. They just lost Hagen Banks last weekend for an undetermined amount of time. He had been moved into the rotation for Riley Quick. And Ben Hess has just not been himself. ERA over 10 the last 2 weekends for Ben Hess, so SEC play has not been kind to him. Alabama needs a spark on the mound. And they're hoping Greg Ferrone has been great. So, okay, that's good. That has been helpful, but they're going to need something else. And maybe it's the freshman Zane Adams who has been good in the midweek. He'll throw a low 90s fastball. He throws a curveball, high 70s, low 80s, and then a low 80s changeup. So not big time stuff, but a guy they like a lot as a young pitcher. And so again, not the highest wattage pitching matchup, but I'm fascinated to see can Eli Jones back up what he did last weekend against Vanderbilt against a Alabama offense? It's a little more physical than Vanderbilt's. And then secondly, can Zane Adams, what does he look like in his first SEC start? Having it at home, I think is helpful in that regard for Adams. We'll have to see. We'll also do a top pitching matchup tomorrow because obviously we have 3 more series starting tomorrow. So on Friday's Weekend Waypoints, we'll get into that as well. So will be 3 new options tomorrow. What to watch for? I'll be here in Fayetteville. I'll be covering the game tonight. Very likely that I write something on Hagen Smith if he pitches as well as he's pitched basically every week since week 1. But hey, if it'd be a good story too if LSU pulls one out and they're the team that really handles Hagen Smith. That would be an interesting story to write as well. So whatever it is, I will have that story written. Then follow all of our D1 baseball writers around the country. We've got several folks out, a little less than normal because Easter weekend, obviously. So folks, I as a childless 30-something man don't have the family responsibilities that a lot of our other staffers at D1 baseball do. So a little bit slower on the travel this weekend as folks are with their families for Easter. But we do have a few folks out. So obviously the D1 Digest every morning will be there for you, and we'll have coverage from various points around the country. That is going to do it for this edition of Weekend Waypoints. It is a beautiful day here in Northwest Arkansas. Looking forward to getting out to the ballpark. I hope the weather is good where you are, and hopefully we're all collectively warming up. Here in the Southeast, we're lucky that we don't get the horribly cold weather, but it is still pretty chilly up to this point. So it looks like we're all warming up together and thawing out. That will be nice as the season rolls along. Enjoy the Thursday of baseball, everyone, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.